Hello, my name is Sophie and welcome back to my channel. It's my favourite time of month. I love picking my monthly TBRs. Even though I generally don't get around to finishing all the books on them, I love making them because I love playing all these little games that I play to choose the books on my monthly TBR. And arguably that's the most fun part of not being a mood reader who is also indecisive. This is the video where I choose the books that will be on my monthly TBR for the following month. So obviously it is April and next month is May. Wow, that is the most patronising thing I think I've ever said. We're going to pick May's TBR. I make my TBR slightly differently to how I've seen other people make their TBRs, in the way that I have a bunch of different categories and I choose a book for each category using a variety of methods. So the categories I have are a book from the wedding library. I used to call it, I have called this the wedding book club before, because when my husband and I got married, we asked our guests to give us a copy of their favourite book, and in an endeavour to read them all, I decided my husband and I would start a book club where we took it in turns each month to choose a book, except I would read it and he wouldn't. So now I'm just calling it a book from the wedding library, and I now use a spinner to choose that book because he kept forgetting which books I'd read, and I kept picking books I wanted to read, and then the books I knew less about were less appealing. So the spinner just takes the decision element out of that. Then I have the book club with my sibling, where we decide together what we're going to read each month. The next category I have is any new releases I've pre-ordered. I basically use pre-ordering as a way to get around my book buying ban. I wouldn't say I pre-order a lot of books, but it depends on what your definition of a lot is. I pick 2 books from my 25 and 2025 list, and obviously I try to read them, and I have a little jar with those titles in. And then my last category is continuous series, which sometimes gets lumped in with the new release, where I've pre-ordered a sequel to a book I haven't read yet. That may or may not be foreshadowing. Let's start with the spinner. We've only got 22 books left. Though some of these represent a series, so there is more than 22 books. But anyway, let's find out which book from the wedding library I'll be reading this month. This makes me nervous, especially when it lands on one of the longest books that I own. So this month I'm going to be reading Shogun by James Clavell, which is, I believe, the second or third longest book I own, because I made a TikTok about it in like 2022. No, it must have been 23 because it was after the wedding. How long is the audiobook for this book? I'm definitely going to have to audio it because I can't. Long books, I can't retain them, and also I don't like holding them. So audiobook it is. I definitely won't be able to listen to that one on Spotify because I think it will be longer than, oh my god, it's part 1 and part 2. Oh, that one says 17 hours, but I don't believe it. Right, Shogun 1 is 23 hours 55. Shogun 2 is 34 hours 19. So I'm going to have to do some research into that. But that is potentially going to have a negative impact on my capability to finish my monthly TBR. Yeah, Shogun is long, but this is a book from my mum, so I can hold her explicitly responsible if I don't like it. Thanks, Mum. But then at least it'll be off the list, so that's slightly less intimidating. Sometimes the wedding book club can really kill the vibe. Anyway, that's the first book on this TBR decided, Shogun by James Clavell. The book club with my sibling, we haven't had our discussion. I have it in reach, actually. I've nearly finished reading April's book club pick, which was Eve of Man by Giovanna and Tom Fletcher, and we haven't had our post-reading discussion yet, which means we haven't picked next month's book. Moving on, in the new release category, I have only pre-ordered 1 book in May, which is reassuring actually because it's less pressure on me. The book I've pre-ordered is A Curse Carved in Bone by Daniel L. Jensen, which is the sequel to A Fate Inked in Blood, which I haven't read yet. So, spoiler for my continuous series category, I'm going to be reading A Fate Inked in Blood before A Curse Carved in Bone comes out. This is one of those where the special edition just got me. I wasn't going to buy A Fate Inked in Blood, and then I saw the naked hardback. Oh, it's right there. It's staring me in the face. Yeah, not going to lie, this cover, meh, not bothered. The sprayed edges, they're just a solid blue. But the naked hardback on this book, look at that. The runes, the foiling, I'm just obsessed. So when I saw that they were doing coordinating matching edition for A Curse Carved in Bone, I had to get it. And having this system where I have the new release category and the continuous series category forces me to actually read some of my backlog and read the new books I'm buying immediately. So it doesn't feel like I'm buying them just to add them to my TBR. I'm really trying to justify this, and I don't think I'm doing very well. Then we get to, I was going to say the fun bit that's slightly less intimidating because I am scared of the wedding library. The 2 books from my 25 and 2025 that I'm going to try and read this month. Let's pick them out, and then I will add a caveat in. Okay, the first one, we have The Lost Bookshop by Evie Woods. I talked about this in a TikTok recently because I filmed a fun little TikTok saying, how would I choose what book I would read after I finish my monthly TBR? Because I'm filming this on April 21st, so there's, nearly 10 days of the month left. And realistically, if I do finish my monthly TBR, it will probably be within the last few days of the month, so I won't really have time to read another book that isn't from my monthly TBR. But I chose a bunch of different methods. So I had, I picked the next unread book on my new buys for the year. I chose a book out of my big TBR jar, and I used my TBR tarot cards. And the card I pulled, the prompt was a book set in a place you'd like to travel to, and this book is set in Ireland. So I picked this book. So it does feel somewhat full circle that it's actually come out of the jar. That's going on the list. That's very exciting. And then the second title I'm going to try and read in May is, come on, Loath to Love You by Ali Hazelwood. I'm very excited about this. This, I think, is the only Ali Hazelwood book I haven't read, other than I think she did like one of those Amazon Prime novella things. I'm not sure if there might be a couple more, but this is a bind up of 3 novellas, and I'm really excited to read them. It's from my favourite era of Ali Hazelwood. I think the only other books listed on the back are The Love Hypothesis and Love on the Brain, which are, I think, my favourite 2 Ali Hazelwoods. I'm really excited to read these and finally have read all of my Ali Hazelwood backlog. And because it's 3 short stories, I feel like I could dip in, read something else and dip out again if I want to, but I can't imagine I will. I imagine I will just read all 3 of them straight off the bat. So those are the 2 books from my 25 and 2025, and that's my whole TBR for the month. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books, which is what I aim for with my monthly TBR. Oh yeah, the caveat with the 25 and 2025. So the 2 books I picked in April were, let me just grab them, How Not to Travel the World by Lauren Jewliffe, which hopefully I will be able to read. That one's fine. But then the other book I picked was The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. And I wanted to read this as an audiobook because I read Circe by Madeline Miller as an audiobook, and I found it really aided my comprehension of the story because it is quite literary, flowery writing, which generally my brain doesn't engage with very well. But the whole time on this book at my library, I'm still waiting on it. So I think what I might do, if I get to the point where I've read everything else on my April TBR, I may skip one of these ahead and move it forward and swap it with Song of Achilles. So one of these may go onto my April TBR and then Song of Achilles onto my May TBR, because hopefully, I think I'm like 2nd or 3rd in line for my whole, and bearing in mind, my library is tiny. My estimated wait for Song of Achilles is 4 weeks. I am 5th in line. 3 copies in use, 10 people waiting total, 3 waiting per copy. Approximately 4 weeks, it reckons. I may swap out Song of Achilles for one of these other books. I do want to start filming reading vlogs, but because I don't have the time to read as much as I want to, I don't know how good I'd be at that. And also, I feel like I'm just not very good at doing book updates. It would just be like, yeah, the characters are nice, the plot is nice. I don't want to say anything because spoilers. I don't know. Would you like to see reading vlogs? If you would, let me know and I'll give it a go. These are the books I've picked to read in May. As a little wrap up, we have Shogun by James Clavell, A Fate Inked in Blood by Daniel L. Jensen, which will lead into my pre-order of A Curse Carved in Bone. And then for my 25 and 2025, we have The Lost Bookshop by Evie Woods and Loath to Love You, the 3 Steminist novellas by Ali Hazelwood. How exciting. It's quite the mix. I'm really intimidated by Shogun, can you tell? I'm going to get back to reading the books that are on my current TBR and try and finish that before the end of the month. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a great day. I hope you're reading a great book, and I'll see you next time for another bookish video. Bye!